Hey, thanks for joining us on our YouTube channel here. Sean from Ed's Parts. Today we're changing out a terminal set, both the positive and negative, on a Toyota Camry 2004 LE. We've got the 90982-05054, and we have the negative crimp kit that we sell, a couple different versions. This is going to be the one with the bus bar and the negative terminal assembly. All right, so let's take a look and see what we have here. So this is the negative terminal. As you can see, it's a bus bar terminal. It's got a crimped wire there. We're going to replace that out. All right, so here's the positive. Let's take a look at this thing. Oh yeah, as you can see, that thing's pretty corroded. Got some green stuff on there. This is going to take about 3 minutes for us to swap out. First thing we always want to do is we want to take off the negative terminal first. So we're going to go in here. All right, so once we get that loose, we want to wrap this thing up. The last thing we want to do when we change these battery terminals out is have that come and touch some sort of metal. So we're going to wrap that up, tuck that away. All right, as you guys can see, we had to go off camera because this nut was totally frozen in there, and a couple of us had to use some vice grips and channel locks. Sometimes the corrosion's so bad you'll have to use Dremels, but we went off camera, we got it loosened, and this is why we're going to change out the battery. So we're going to just take this off, which gives us our cable, and there's the old battery terminal. So as you can see, it's all copper, and that's just because the tin plating is totally corroded away. So we're going to swap that out. Okay. All right, so as you can see, we got two cables here. We pulled them apart. We cleaned them up pretty good. We're going to put them back together. And then here's our battery terminal, 90982-05054. This thing's on about 40 million different vehicles out there. So once you get the battery terminal off the old one, this becomes real easy. So what we're going to do is we're just going to slide that on the post, take off your nut. And this is another reason why you want to tuck this negative aside, just in case that thing flops back. You don't want to have any sort of an open circuit. So we're going to put that guy on there. We'll tighten that up with our fingers. And then we'll come in and we'll tighten the battery terminal on the tighten that guy down. And then tighten up the nut. And there you go, brand new positive. That's what it looked like before. Okay. All right, as you can see, we've already replaced this positive. So now we're going to replace this negative. We've already loosened up the nut that goes around the battery post. So we take that off. We're just going to wrap that up, tuck that aside. We're going to want to undo this one as well, just to close the circuit. And we'll do the same. We're going to grab a towel, wrap that up, tuck that aside, just so it doesn't touch anything. All right, in these vehicles, there's never a whole lot of slack in these battery cables. So if you can, what I suggest is just take the battery out, and that's gonna give us a little bit more room to work on. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna remove this heat shrink and try and get as close to the battery terminal. All right, so what I did is with the box cutter, I just cut up the heat shrink. And then we're just going to peel this back, maybe some needle nose, and just get that back. And so this actually does not look too bad. Now, in most cases, this is all going to be corroded and really, really difficult to get off. So we're going to pretend that it's that way. We're going to come in here and cut this and then strip this back. All right, so we're going to cut this right here at the terminal. All right, now we're going to strip down about 5/8 of an inch on both wires. All right, so we've got that stripped down, both these ground cables. It's got about 5/8 inches of the insulation stripped off. Now we're going to prep our terminal kits. We sell a lot of these kits. So this is a pretty common one where it's just the negative terminal and that crimps right to the wire. The one we're going to use here today, we got a bus bar, and that was just because of the design of the system. So that's going to crimp on the wires, and then it will get attached to the negative terminal assembly. We sell a Super Duty positive kit, has a couple different bus bars. So the prepping on these two ground cables with this system is the same for all of these that we sell. So we'll show you how to do that with some tools that everyone has in their garage. You know, the professional way would be to use some sort of bench mount terminal crimp with a B type crimp, but we know most people don't have these. These things run a couple $100. You'll see them in garages, but someone who's working out of their house in their driveway, they may not have that. So we're going to show you how to do it with tools that we all have in our garage. All right, so what we're going to do is, this is the crimp bus bar that's going to go right on those ground wires, and then that's going to get bolted there. So the best way to do this is, first we want to get this crimp wings, we want to get them closed. The easiest way to do it is use an Allen wrench, 8mm, 9mm, 10mm. Maybe if you don't have a big one, if you've got a nail set, you can just put that in there, you know, taper it, and then we're just going to take our pliers. Channel locks are good just because you get some really good leverage, and you're going to want to start closing that down on the wire or on the set screw. So we're going to close that down there, come to the other side, and all we're looking to do is try and make a channel to feed those two wires into these crimp sets. These last two here, they're going to crimp around the insulation that's left on the wires. So we want to get, all right, so we've got that started. So we're going to feed these two wires in here, but very important, before you put the terminal on there, let's just feed our heat shrink down there, just because you wouldn't be able to get it on those cables if you already started the wire. So now we're going to take our two wires, we're going to feed them into that slot. And as I said, these two are going to clamp on the insulation, and then we're going to clamp those down on the copper wire. And really, it's just leverage. We're going to use our pliers. The best thing to do is clamp this down on the wires first, and then that's going to hold them in place. It's going to be almost like a strain relief. All right, now we'll come back, tighten that up a little bit more. Now with these, you want to get one wing under the other. So we'll start on this left side. Bring it down on this. All right, so sometimes these crimp wings will get caught up on each other, so maybe you take a smaller Allen wrench, and with your channel locks, just drive that down. And now working it back and forth between your channel locks, between vice grips, We're just gonna close this thing down as much as we can. So we're just tightening this down, just little bit by little bit. To compress that copper as much as we can. One more. If you want to come in here. So as you can see, this is tight. Pull test. That thing's going nowhere. All right, so we got that tightened pretty good. Our last move is going to take a smaller Allen wrench or, 6mm bolt, and we're just going to drive those down in the center. So we want to get that positioned right there. And really drive those crimp wings into the copper. Pull up this heat shrink and seal that bad boy up. So now we're just going to heat up this heat shrink. We do have industrial torches, but I know most of you guys just use a lighter or something like that. So we're going to do that. And we'll just heat this up. There is a glue that's built into this heat shrink. And you could trim this down if you wanted to, but if you didn't want this to be as long. We'll flip that around. Nice and tight. Seal this guy up. There you go. Cut. All right, so we've got our battery back. We just do the opposite as when we started. We started by taking off the negative first, so we'll put that on last. I covered that up, just we don't want that touching anything. Tighten this guy up. Get that nice and tight. Bring out our terminal assembly. And our kits have instructions that go over all the stuff that we just did on the video. So we'll tighten this guy up. As you can see, there's no bracket holding this battery on. This thing's old. So there you go. The before and the after. Pretty easy, 2-3 minutes for this. Hardest part was taking off that old corroded nut. And then of course, redoing that crimp. There you have it. Once again, Sean from Ed's Parts. Go to our website. We've got all sorts of battery terminals, tips, fuses, wiring systems, fans, etc. Anything that's running power in your car, hopefully we have it. Take care.